Are you like trying to mock me? I kind of understand.
Hey guys, hey guys, look who's finally ready to play.
Let's see if I remember how to do this.
Hey yo, here we go. Microphone check. 1 2 1 2. I said microphone check. 1 2. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Ain't nobody out here winning like me. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Just like me, like me. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Ain't nobody out here winning like me. Can't nobody out here do it like me. Just like me, like me.
What's up, guys? Good evening and welcome in to a very special edition here on the Undefeated Sports Network of our premier show, Ace's Wild Chicago Sports Takes with Ace and Tarbill. I am Andrew Tarbill. To my left, as always, is the man, the myth, the legend, and somewhat a mystery, Angelo Ace Camacho. What's up, brother? How we doing tonight, man?
Tarbill, what's up, man? It has been far too long since we've done this. Kind of dusted off the old headset. I feel like when Michael came back to the United Center, he had to dust off the jersey, get it put back on.
I know. And, I saw that text today that just said I'm back, and I was like, oh, all right, we're doing this.
That's right. I'm back. I just sent it out in the Players Tribune, and we're gonna let everybody remember, who the best are in the world at what we do. So,
well, man, good to catch up with you. As you said, it's been a while since we've gotten to grace the airwaves together, so lots to talk about.
Fun fact: the last show we did was I think it was the Sunday after the Thanksgiving Day game when the Bears lost to the Lions. Yep. That was the last show. And some people are like, yeah, it's so long. Why? Sometimes you just need a break from
absolutely.
Because at that point, man, we were talking about the same stuff every show. It was what could the Bears do the following What could the Bears do the following week to piss me off? So yeah, we took some time off. Life happened. Life goes on with everybody in this group, and but we're back, and we're back, and we're ready to rock and roll going forward.
Yep, absolutely. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. So we are going to, for our first-time viewers, cover a variety of Chicago sports takes. Obviously, some big news with our Chicago Cubs. Ace and I both big Cubs fans. If you're a South Side fan, we're sorry. We're not talking about the White Sox. Chicago Cubs are currently first in the division. Still a little early to be saying that, obviously. But an impressive win over the Padres today.
The undefeated Padres.
The undefeated Padres. Not a lot of successful at bats, but drew a lot of walks today, which was something that's unique and refreshing. Good to see for this lineup to be able to really show that plate discipline when needed, and that's something that's a key attribute against very good teams like the Padres. So I do want to talk about the 18-run game that the Cubs scored the other night against the A's. I think that was obviously phenomenal for a number of reasons, but we got to see the first cycle hit by a Cubs player since, I believe, 1993. So I wasn't even alive the last time the Cubs hit for the cycle, Ace.
I was, but I was only 3. So technically 2. I don't even think I had turned 3 yet. So, I don't really remember it that well.
No. So obviously the Cubs' explosive bats, I think 18 runs scored is the highest in a Cubs game in several years. So really good to see that explosive energy coming out of the gate. And man, I get it. The A's are not a good team. They are.
Do they even have a home?
The MLB. They're going to Vegas, so they're playing in Sacramento right now. But man, the Cubs have been off to an electric start, Ace, and it's been fun to watch. I'm excited to be a Cubs fan. I don't know if I'll have that same energy in a month. Obviously, some very tough series left here in April. You've got the Padres, the Dodgers, Diamondbacks. it's going to be a challenging stretch of games, we'll say. I don't want to say that it's going to be tough because thus far we've been able to hold our own, but it'll be interesting to see what happens long term over the next month or so for this Cubs team, right?
Yeah, I think that your biggest worry, obviously, with this team is the bullpen. It was that way last year. 26
Right.
blown saves last season. 17 of those ended up in losses. You even
Oh,
get
yeah.
half of those, and you end up in the playoffs. And I understand the mindset of like, okay, we're not going to go out there and break the bank for anybody. We have a team. We just have to put some pieces in place, and hopefully those pieces produce.
Right.
It'd be nice to see them have that dominant closer. But even in 16, they really didn't have that dominant closer until they went and got Aroldis Chapman in a trade. So I think it's going to be similar this year.
I'm going to stop you right there. You know who's thrown the fastest pitch in MLB history?
Who?
Aroldis Chapman. 105 miles per hour when he played for the Cincinnati Reds.
That's so fast.
It's absolutely.
I watched one of those like sports science things before, and they were saying like when 100-mile-an-hour pitch goes, you have like 0.4 seconds to react to that pitch, and that's just insanity.
The reaction time is absolutely crazy. So, I've been playing a lot of MLB 25, the show, of course, recently. Big fan of that series, as you know. I pretty much pick it up every year, and my thing is I create a pitcher named Kenny Powers every year and just see how fast I can throw the baseball. So right now I'm consistently throwing like 101 to 103.
Throwing the heat, the hot.
It is just absolutely nasty. Sometimes it doesn't land in the strike zone, but it's fun either way. But no, 100+ mile an hour pitch, man, is so incredible to see firsthand. I was watching the Bat Bros on YouTube, and they were trying to hit 100-mile-an-hour pitches, and it's just crazy the velo that's on those things. I mean,
yeah, it's wild.
For a regular guy like me or you, sure, I can go hit a dinger in a softball game, but by no means am I going to go out there and be able to do anything but ground out 100-mile-an-hour pitch. It's just crazy how fast that is when you see it in real life.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite time of year. Obviously, I'm a huge football guy. I love football.
Oh, are you a football fan?
Yeah, it's probably my number one favorite sport to watch. But
it also frustrates you the most as a Bears fan.
I don't know if I've ever been more frustrated with any one specific topic in my life than the Chicago Bears. So
that's fair. So with that, I mean, I would love to sit and talk about the Cubs all day, but we've only played a handful of games, and admittedly, I've only watched a couple thus far this season. So I think we got to move right into our favorite topic, and that is the Chicago Bears, our love-hate relationship that we have with them.
Yes.
So at the end of last season, obviously, Caleb Williams showing promise and growth in all the areas that you want to see. Took too many sacks, did hold the ball a little bit too long. Obviously, that's not a secret at this point to anyone. I think Chicago Bears went out and swung big on the offensive line and on the defensive line by signing Jarrett, and then obviously two key additions on the offensive line. Even though Thuney's a little bit older of a guy, still like the acquisitions, like that they're going after guys that have been blue chip caliber players at one point in their career. I would like to see the unpopular opinion. Actually, before we get into that, before I get into who I would like to see the Bears draft in the first round at the number 10 pick, let's go back and forth on biggest needs for this roster in the draft. Ace, I want to know your top three. We'll go back and forth. What positions you think the Bears need to focus on most in the offseason?
Well, I mean, I could definitely tell you what I don't think they need, but we can save that for the next topic because I already know that that's going to be a fun conversation. Okay. Biggest areas of needs, I still say offensive line. I say defensive line. And I wouldn't be opposed to seeing them get another cornerback. I think to have two shutdown corners, is only going to make your defense a lot better. You should look at safety with I know Brisker was
He's fully cleared. He's coming
right?
back.
He's fully
Man.
cleared. I still think that that's a situation that needs to be watched. The fact that he missed 10 games this season for a concussion is an alarming red flag that should be on everybody's radar.
Did he miss 10 games for concussion, or did he miss 5 games for concussion and 5 games because he thought Matt Eberflus?
5 games for a concussion is still 5 games longer than, I'm okay with 1, maybe 2. 5 games is a lot. And then to have no news about it the whole season, I get it. It's his medicals. He doesn't have to release anything he doesn't want to, but like if he you watch that defense take a massive step backwards once he got hurt, and to think that he isn't a key part in the blitz game, especially, and he's not afraid to lower the shoulder and hit you. And that's what you have to watch for. Now, if you tell me, he's going to wear the Guardian helmet and he's going to be,
I hate the Guardian helmet.
I do too. It looks goofy, but if he's going to wear that and it's going to reduce the risk, then, I'm all for that. But I still think it's a situation you need to watch. And I'm not saying spend your first round pick on a safety, but
definitely don't.
I think offensive and defensive lines should be the first 3 picks you make this year. Yes, you got players. Those players are old. They're not older. They are old.
Older.
They are old players on the offensive line. 32 plus years for everybody that they brought on, I think, except for one guy. And that's the edge from Indianapolis, I think. I think he's 27. And he didn't have a very great season last year. I know the argument for him was, well, quarterbacks get rid of the ball a lot faster. Cool. Awesome. If he was 1 second sooner, he would have got the sack. That's cool. If I hit 1 extra number on the Powerball, I'd be a millionaire. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a whole, you need to get these guys that are going to put the quarterback on their ass. Otherwise, what's the point? You can rush a quarterback all you want, but in today's game, these guys are getting the ball out so quickly. And the short game has become so effective in the NFL that it's basically like an extension of the running game. And you get the ball to these playmakers and they're busting 10, 15-yard runs. So if you're not getting the quarterback down, you're not setting your team up for success. And we've talked plenty about this, that the defensive line
absolutely
helps set up the rest of the defense in terms of what they can do the rest of the game. If you have a defensive line that's pressuring quarterbacks, that leads to untimed passes, which will help your cornerbacks, which will help your safeties, and it just helps you stay in a flow. And I think that should be their main number 1 focus in the draft, is an edge rusher to go opposite Montez Sweat.
Wow. Bold predictions, Ace. I do like it. However, I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction. I am going to say the Bears absolutely still need to draft an offensive lineman with one of their first 3 picks. Okay. I'll agree with you there. However, I think the clear-cut choice at number 10.
Please don't say it, Tarbill.
Is Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, my friend.
I knew you were going to say
it. Has to be. You have to go get your Jahmyr Gibbs.
Nothing like a 5-win team going and drafting a running back to solidify that team and put them over the hump. Nothing like a 5-win team.
I didn't cut you off. Let me finish.
That's fair.
I think the Bears go out and draft Ashton Jeanty if he's there at 10. And then I believe with the next 2 picks, they go offensive line, defensive line. I think that's how this draft's going to shake out. Now, right or wrong, I know we've had a lot of back and forth conversations about the effectiveness of a first round running back draft pick.
Yeah, I sent those stats for you guys.
And there's definitely been some misses there. I'm not going to disagree, to say the least. But I think you look at a guy like Caleb Williams, who many regarded as a generational talent, one of the best prospects since Andrew Luck, et cetera, and you hear on the running back front that, he's got Ginty has shades of Saquon Barkley and shades of LT and all these guys who were just dogs in
You
the
mean LaDainian
backfield.
Tomlinson, right?
Yes.
How many Super Bowls did he play in?
I don't know. I feel like
it's zero.
I feel like the
answer's
answer is zero.
It is zero. It is. I was just curious.
Well, I mean, a running back
Curious.
can't do it all, right? But they can add to a very bolstered team already. So you've got a much stronger offensive line than you did a year ago. You've got a much stronger defensive line than you did a year ago. With the acquisition of Jarrett, obviously, Gervon Dexter's going to, one would think, take a step forward with not having so much pressure on him. I don't know. I think Thuney's got another couple quality years in him at offensive line. I don't think you have to solve everything within this draft. Darnell Wright's obviously your starting right tackle moving forward for the foreseeable future. You go get Jackson, you go get Thuney. Now you've got two guys who are plug and play day one starters. Braxton Jones still is questionable at left tackle. That's probably where I would think it makes the most sense to make, I don't want to say an immediate upgrade, but at least draft a guy who could provide some competition and depth at the position. And then you got to get a center, right? In my opinion.
I think you drafted the center from, or you traded for the center for the Atlanta, right?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about him. How did I forget about him? So never mind. You don't have to go after a center. I'm an idiot. I think the offensive line's pretty solid. So
sorry, I was just looking at all the last first round running backs drafted since 2020.
Go ahead and say.
Oh, you want to know them? Oh,
yeah.
I can wait. We don't have to.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Well, you have. Let's see. I'm trying to find. Damn, 2000. There was a lot of running backs drafted in the first round.
It was a running backs league.
Sean Alexander.
You're going back all the way back to 2000.
All right, pick a year. What do you want? 2010? I'll go to 2010.
Sure.
That takes out Reggie Bush out of the equation. That takes out Marshawn Lynch out of the equation. That takes out Adrian Peterson out of the equation. That takes out. Okay, where is number 2010? Okay. Ryan Matthews, you remember him? Big runner for the Chargers. You remember that guy?
Sure
CJ Splitter, the main man, drafted 9th overall to the Buffalo Bills. Let's see who else is in here. 2011, Mark Ingram drafted 28th overall. 2012,
Ingram was a good pick. You can't say he wasn't.
Did they make the Super Bowl? No. David Wilson, drafted 32nd overall by the Giants. Doug Martin, 31st overall by Tampa Bay. Trent Richardson, 3rd overall in 2012. I remember he was supposed to be the next Adrian Peterson. Remember, that's what they were saying. Melvin Gordon, there we go. Flash Gordon, 15th overall in 2015. Todd Gurley, there's the name, 10th overall. Let's go. Right where the Bears are picking that sweet, sweet spot at number 10. He definitely had himself a real great year. Ezekiel Elliott in 2016.
Okay, stop.
Hold on, I'm still going. There's plenty. There's Christian McCaffrey. He's probably the most known.
Okay, the last 3 guys that you named were studs for the first 6 years of their career.
Did the teams win?
Dallas was a better team because of Ezekiel Elliott.
Did they win?
Yeah.
It's not about being a better team. It's about winning football games. You have a guy that you signed last offseason. He makes $8 million a year. I don't care. You guys were all defending Ryan Pace. That Ryan Poles that whole the whole season with Swift. Oh, he's the man. This is good. Oh, give him. It's only week 2. It's only week 6. It's only week 47. A running back on a 5-win team would be it's like drafting a punter in the 4th round after you drafted a punter 2 years prior.
Okay. Well, we can agree to disagree because
I think that you need to keep as many bodies in front of Caleb Williams as possible. You drafted older players, some of whom are long in the tooth. You know, Tooney is a great signing. I love that pick. I love the trade for him. My concern is how many miles are on that body. That man has played in so many playoff games, so many Super Bowls. That's not just a regular kind of guy who's only played a regular season. I think the guys they brought in on the offensive line and defensive line were more brought in to fix the culture in the locker room. Yeah, I still think you're going to get the production from those guys. But I think the Bears had so much good fortune on the offensive side of the ball in terms of health. And I think to expect that next season and not put yourself in a situation where you're prepared for anything to happen. Like, you watched how bad that offensive line was every time Tevin Jenkins was in and out of that line, right? It was terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
If one of these guys you pick up gets hurt, then what? Then you're back to that same offensive line. I think you need to look at, I would much rather have them take an edge rusher. We talked about it last draft, that was an area that they needed to address. They drafted Booker. He didn't see the field nearly enough as he should have.
Right.
And I'm hoping that this offseason, maybe he was too small last season. And
yeah, I
that's
think the
why
plan is definitely to probably bulk him up a little bit.
And who knows, maybe he comes in and he's the guy that's going to be rotating out of that other edge spot. I just, and I know what you're saying, the ability to have a guy like Gibbs or like David Montgomery. Fun fact, he used to play for the Bears. They didn't want to pay him, but they wanted to pay.
Like Saquon Barkley.
Saquon had a really good Super Bowl. He didn't.
Saquon's the reason, one of the key reasons his team was in the Super Bowl.
Okay. So was that offensive line that's built like a brick shithouse in front of their quarterback.
Is the Eagles' offensive line that great, though? They lost Jason Kelsey. They lost another key starter last season, obviously.
I mean, I'll look up right now where they ranked. I don't know off the top of my head where they ranked, but I will look it up.
I mean, I'm sure it's in the top 10.
Offensive line rankings.
I'm sure it's in the top 10, obviously.
I mean, it probably well, they have a picture of the Eagles as the picture on the page. So number one offensive line of last season was the Philadelphia Eagles, the number one offensive line in football. So again, it's cool to have flashy toys to play with. We watched all the flashy toys the Bears had this offseason. You know, it's the best situation you could put a rookie quarterback in, right? That's what they said. You got all these receivers, this big tight end, you know, all this stuff. And what did it lead to? It led to 5 wins. Yes, granted, I know there's nuance to the conversation. It wasn't just the team. It was coaching errors,
right?
Blah, blah, blah. But
the Bears, the reality of the situation is, yes, we won 5 games last season.
Right. And
Are we better than 5 wins? Absolutely. They should have won 10 games, 4 of which were directly related to historically bad coaching blunders.
Yes. Okay. That is true. Along with the 2 years ago when they had all those crazy losses also in the beginning of the season. Remember when we were like, 7 historic losses in a row and 14.
Yeah.
I think that a big part, obviously, Ben Johnson is the biggest key to this team, I feel.
Oh, he's the biggest head coach signing the Bears have ever made, period.
And if you watch the way that the Lions were built while he was there, it was offensive line, defensive line, defensive line. Then you go and get your running back. This is, and I don't know shit really about college football. The only time I ever pay attention to college football is right now when I watch clips of guys that are going to be drafted. So I'm not pretending like I sit on the couch every Saturday watching, Ashton Genty busting crazy yards. But I listened to people talk about these guys and the caliber of competition that Genty went against. I'm not saying it wasn't good, but I feel like there's other running backs in this draft that went up against stiffer competition in college and had very similar numbers.
He had the best total yards in college football last season.
Right. But who was he playing? You know what I mean? Like if you look at a lot of the teams that he played for, hold on, I'm looking up projected running back draft class 2025 because I want to just make sure I have all the names of all these guys. But I think there's a lot, like I said, there's nuance to all these conversations. I don't think if you told me at week 10 in the season, damn, the Bears really miss not having Ashton Genty on this team, I don't think that's the conversation. I don't. I think you're more likely to be like, damn, if only they drafted some depth at the offensive line or defensive line position when Tooney gets injured, or if Sweat goes down and gets hurt. Now you have somebody that can plug and play in that spot, and you're not completely depleted at that position and putting Caleb literally back in the same spot you had him in last season. After you just signed, like I said, if you didn't sign Swift last year, then yeah, I'd maybe be a little bit more on board with the idea of drafting a running back. But you just spent money on a running back who was average at best. And that's why you don't pay running backs.
Okay, but if you don't pay running backs, the thing you should do is draft.
And I'm not saying they shouldn't draft a running back. I just don't think you should draft a running back at number 10.
So you think if you tell me a guy like Caleb Johnson from Iowa in the 4th round and roll the dice
or late second round, you can trade back at 10. I honestly would be a fan if there's guys sitting there that they are like, the couple guys we wanted, the offensive linemen or defensive linemen that we wanted aren't there. I don't want them just to be like, okay, let's settle for this. I'd much rather them trade back, get picks, maybe get a 3rd rounder, maybe get another 2nd rounder, and then look to address that issue. If you have 3 second-round picks, you use one of those on a running back, I'm not going to flip out about it. You know what I mean? But I think there's a lot bigger fish that need to be fried on this team, especially at more impactful positions. What are the 2 biggest positions in football? The quarterback and the guy who sacks the quarterback, and then the guys who protect the quarterbacks, right? Those are the 3 biggest spots on the team.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I mean,
and I think if you think you have too many offensive or defensive linemen, I don't think you have enough. I think you need to build it.
A good problem to have, right?
I mean, what's this? There are 10 blue chip players in this draft. Oh, are there 10 blue chip players in this draft? That's a great question too by Foster, because I've heard a lot of analysts say how this draft isn't like a great draft. There's a lot of good players, but there's not this talk of like there's so many great players in this draft. And that's where I think if you're the Bears and you play this smart, that 10th pick, you can move back to 13, 14, 15, see what your options are there, get a pick for next season, get some extra picks in the 2nd round, the 3rd round. And because you're going to have to look in the future, whether we want to or not. If Caleb plays up to his potential, this dude's going to be a $500 million quarterback.
He's going to get the first $1 billion contract is what they're saying he wants.
Well, and that's what I mean. Like, you need all the young players you can get if you're going to pay your quarterback that kind of money.
And will the Bears give it to him? Yeah, probably, because we've never had a good quarterback. So if Caleb comes out and is the reason that we're winning tons of games this season, I think you're definitely obviously moving in the direction. Like, he's our guy, right? We don't have to argue that Caleb's the guy.
So he showed promise last year, right? Obviously, one of the best quarterbacks we've watched in Chicago
ever
as a rookie, right? The things he was doing, there were plays that didn't even count because there were holding penalties that got called back, or illegal shifts that got called back, like that. Oh, what game was it where he did that, like that jump pass to the end zone? I forget the game. I think it was against Indianapolis that got called back. But like there's those flashes.
Okay, yep.
And we talked a lot about that with Justin. But the difference is Caleb is making these flashy plays with his arm and not with his legs. And yeah, the projection for Caleb is high, at least in my opinion. I think you look at a guy, you see that he gets it, right? But now, like you said, year 2 has to be the year that he shines out and the team wins because of him. Right.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Like, and I think honestly, a running back, while it's a safety valve for a young quarterback, I think you have enough in that room right now that you can be fine going later in the draft without picking a running back, because I don't want them to utilize a running back 40 times. I don't want the split to be 50-50, 60-40. I want it to be more like 75-25, and I want to see Caleb take that step and be that franchise quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers or like a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning. And yes, they had decent running games as well, but they also had good offensive linemen and they knew what to do with the ball. And I want to see him take that step. And I think that drafting a guy that high in the draft, you're automatically kind of telling your coaching staff, like, hey, we have to push this guy when we play. Like, you have to get him the ball. This guy has to be our feature guy. And I don't want that to happen to this offense.
That's fair. I respect the opinion and see what you're saying. I wouldn't, if they take an offensive lineman at 10, I'm not going to be devastated. I'm fine.
Right.
If they take the tight end that everyone's enamoring about, Warren, I'll be fine. I'm not going to be upset, but I think no matter what this team does at 10, it'll be very interesting. I'm most excited to see, like, I almost wish that they would have done Hard Knocks this coming season now, because
they had to make sure they got Flus in his new hairdo on camera.
You've got Ben Johnson. You've got the guy who has been pegged as like the offensive guru of the league, right?
And I think that's something we should talk about, Tarbill, is for once the Bears wanted the best and the best wanted the Bears, right?
Which wasn't crazy, right? Because it's never been that way.
Right. It's usually the Bears want this guy, he goes somewhere else, so they have to take the runner up.
Right. Like we were talking about having to settle for Mike McCarthy as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. And then it came out that, Ben Johnson was interested in the Bears, and he had a really good meeting with Ryan and Kevin and George, and everyone saw eye to eye, and really that was where he wanted to be. And then they got the deal done immediately.
Yeah, they didn't even hesitate.
Like,
they knew that was their
he
pitch.
said, "This is how much money I want," and Ryan said, "George, this is what it's going to take," and he said, "Go get him."
Yeah, because you know what I think
is totally uncharacteristic of the Bears, because they've always cheaped out in the coaching department.
100%. I was about to say, I've been very hard on this team for past mistakes. You guys know in the chat, I've especially all last season.
Yeah.
I put this team down for things that they did in the past because historically speaking, this franchise does not know what they're doing. And yeah, they'll spend money, but they spend money on the wrong things, right?
Right.
But I really think that Kevin Warren coming into this organization, having the type of leadership that he has, I think George trusts him in making these decisions. And I think it's starting to show. They talked about it all last season, before the season started. We want a world-class organization, right? Well,
Absolutely.
The product on the field was not a world-class organization product for last year. If anything, I'd say it was an embarrassing team to watch for most of the year.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Now you look at what they did. They went and they looked at the pretty girl across the room, and the pretty girl looked back, and now they're dating.
Hey,
right.
hey,
now and they're like, wait, me?
What do you say? Do you want to sign me to a contract today?
Right. And everybody, Ben Johnson was the guy in this
Oh,
coaching cycle.
absolutely.
He was the guy last coaching cycle, but he didn't want to leave Detroit. And I really think a lot of that has to do with the Bears job didn't open up. I feel like he really
Right.
wanted this position.
Well, he very vocally said that he wanted to stay in the NFC North, and that was
Right.
like, this is the toughest division in football. This is where I want to be, which is a great testament to like his resiliency and
I like
obviously,
that.
yeah, I love that. You
Don't be
wanna
afraid to
challenge
play. Right.
consistently. Right. Don't be
Right.
afraid to play. That's a great way to put it.
You know, you hear all these people like when they talk about Aaron Rodgers going to the Vikings, they were all like, "Oh no, I don't want Rodgers in the division." Blah blah blah. You know, he beats the Bear. Like, listen, eventually you have to play a good quarterback, and eventually you have to beat a good quarterback.
Right.
And if Aaron Rodgers at 40 years old is going to stop you from
Intimidates
being
you, scares you,
then you have a
you
problem.
have an issue bigger than
Exactly.
Aaron Rodgers.
And that's why I'm
Absolutely.
glad that they brought this guy in. He has this, he really does bring that Detroit type of gritty mindset.
Oh,
to
absolutely.
The Bears. You know, we're not going to be afraid to go blow to blow with you. We're going to bring in a coaching staff. And I think that's another thing is we've watched coaches bring in staffs before. Look at last season. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, Flus brought in this guy. That guy lasted 9 months or 9 games and was gone.
Right.
And
Shane Waldron was an idiot, though. Like,
without a doubt.
In retrospect, why did anyone think that was a good hire?
If you look at the coaching staff that Johnson's put together, it's very similar to what Dan Campbell did in Detroit with
absolutely
good analytical minds. You have former players that can relate to the players on the field. And I don't think a lot of people really look at that side of football, like the casual fan. I don't think they look at like how impactful those types of relationships are between coaches and players when you're trying to grow a culture and a team. The culture the last 20 years has been awful.
Absolutely horrible.
And now you bring in a coach. And like I said, with these offensive and defensive line acquisitions.
I wouldn't say for the last 20 years. Sorry to cut you off. But I mean, I think obviously the culture was pretty good for that 2018 team when we won the North.
I mean, it was it was a fun team to watch.
It was a fun team to watch.
It was a really
Vic
fun team to watch.
was a big reason that team was
and
where it was.
In fact, Vic, you know, for those who don't know, Vic is the defensive coordinator of the Eagles, who just dominated that Super Bowl. That defense dominated that Super Bowl.
I feel like there's not anyone tuning in that doesn't know that, Ace. But I'm with you.
And
Dennis Allen, great acquisition though.
Yep.
The guy who's a former head coach, a guy obviously who had very good success with New Orleans in his stint there. Little targeting allegations. I'm just kidding. That was all Sean Payton. But Dennis Allen is a great mind to bring in as DC. He's a guy who's got the head coaching experience who will help Ben Johnson kind of acclimate and get used to the situational things that a first-time head coach struggles with. So I think that it's important for that. It's important from that perspective for a guy like Ben Johnson to feel comfortable and have a good supporting cast around him. But man, to see some of the things that Detroit did last season on the offensive side of the ball and know that Ben Johnson is the reason that he was the play caller. He designed the plays. It was his offense.
And not even just last season, but for the last 3 seasons,
for the last 3 years. Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, really when they talked about who they should get, that's why this guy was the number one. This is the guy, because it wasn't just a pop-up 1 year. Hey, look, we have a flashy offense for 1 season. He had a consistent offense for the last 3 years with a quarterback in Jared Goff that a lot of people gave up on when he got traded to Detroit. Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And he turned around that guy's career.
Yeah.
And if he can do
that again.
Right. And if he can do that kind of stuff with Caleb
Jared Goff, look what what can he do with Caleb Williams, right?
Right. And because you and I think are in agreement on this, the talent level hope in Caleb Williams far surpasses that of Jared Goff.
Oh, times 2.
Right.
I mean,
so if Ben Johnson
close.
can tap into that and get him to play at the level that we hope he can play at, this team is the sky literally could be the limits for this team. And listen, I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Well, you picked them to win 13 games last year." Yeah, I definitely did.
I regret that decision horribly.
Sometimes in life you can be wrong, and
So
I'm man enough to
you
admit
miss
that I was
100%
wrong.
of the shots you don't take, right?
That's right. Michael
Wayne
Jordan said
Gretzky or
that.
somebody said that.
Somebody said that. No, it was Wayne
Somebody said
Gretzky. I'm pretty sure.
No, it was. I think that quote actually comes from the show Trailer Park Boys.
Oh, I don't know. I've never watched that show.
Or The Office. No. Anyways, ultimately, I think that the biggest thing for us to be excited about this season is the natural step that Caleb Williams is going to take in his sophomore season. You've got a solidified offensive line around him, and on top of that, you've got probably one of the best coaching rooms in the league, right?
Yeah, I would say. I think that there's they brought in.
You've got Dennis Allen. You've got
Eric Bieniemy in your running back room.
Bieniemy as your
these are all
backs coach.
Right. These are all guys that have experience in the NFL, that are proven guys in the NFL. Right. And I think that
and here's to think that they could have ended up with Eddie George as their head coach, or Ron Rivera or Mike McCarthy. But no, the Bears finally got their guy.
Yeah.
They got the best coach of the hiring cycle. And
now,
that's no small feat.
I am famous or infamous for being overhyped on the Bears quite a bit in my life. And
really, I didn't know that.
I just want to take this opportunity to say that hype train is full fucking fledged go right now.
It's rolling into the station.
Yeah. It's going 100 mile an hour down this track. And I really do feel very confident in this team next season. And to the point where if they don't make the playoffs, I think it is a bad year. I don't care that it's a first-time head coach. I don't care that Caleb Williams is learning a new offense. I don't care about any of that. This team has the pieces, has the players. We bitched about it. Oh, it's the coach. It's the coach. It's the coach. Okay. Now you have the coach. This guy's going to be here. He needs to take this team and get them to a playoff caliber team this year. Period.
So that kind of, before we wrap up as our final thoughts and our kind of segue to the end of the show, I would like to talk about the expectation for the 2025 season. So
okay.
If obviously we've already seen, I don't want to say the schedule, but the opponents are set. We have seen the schedule. We know we know who the Bears are playing in 2025. I think that realistically you see. Sorry, let me start over, guys. For this Chicago Bears team, if they do not win 10 games this season, I think it's an absolute disappointment. Would you agree, Ace?
I 100% agree. And I know that that's a huge thing to say because it's hard to win.
Double your win output.
Right, you double your win output. Exactly. So a lot of people, 8 wins is an improvement, blah, blah,
blah. It's
a
step in the right direction.
Fuck improvement and all that. I want this team should be a 10-win team. If Caleb Williams is the guy that he's been touted as,
absolutely.
There's zero reason this offense cannot carry this team.
I would agree.
What are your thoughts on next year?
Sorry, go ahead.
I think they play, I'm pretty sure they play the Steelers. I'm trying to find the schedule, but I can't find
it. We play the entire NFC South, I believe.
Right. And I think we have a game in a foreign country, if I'm not mistaken. I think every team does, but I can't find it. So let's just pretend that I did find it, but I can't. And no data available. Okay, well, I guess ESPN doesn't have the teams that they're playing next season. So,
okay, so we at least have the opponents list.
Right.
So you've obviously got your division opponents, and then Dallas, New York, the Browns, the Steelers, New Orleans.
Oh, I got it
Baltimore,
right here. Yep.
Cincy, Philadelphia, the Reds, or Washington, San Francisco, and the Raiders.
Yep.
So
You play Baltimore, Cincy, the Eagles, the Commanders, and the Raiders and the 49ers all on the road.
all on the road.
Yep. So listen,
those are
schedule,
some tough road games.
Yeah, that schedule is
lie.
pretty tough.
But I think if this team doesn't win 10 games, it's a major fluke and disappointment.
I think you really have to hope to make a bulk of your wins in the division. I think that's where you're going to have to separate yourself. I think.
Hey, Ben Johnson really enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year.
And I expect it to continue.
Excuse me. So if we're going with that mentality, then A, I think the Bears could very easily make the turn and jump and be the best team in the division, or be right up there neck and neck with Detroit. And I don't think that's absolutely wild to say.
I agree. I think that the coaching in the NFC North is wild, right? Like, as much as I hate Green Bay, Matt LaFleur is a good coach. Well, I'll say he's a good coach.
Matt LaFleur is a good coach. I don't disagree with that.
Dan Campbell, he's shown what he can do with the team.
Right.
Minnesota, they have a good coach, and I think
coach of the year, right?
Yeah, I think they proved that with being able to just plug and play a quarterback last season who nobody thought would be. All people, right. The Vikings were supposed to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, right?
Yeah,
and they weren't.
Right. Well, I mean, hard to be the worst when you've got Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, but
right. But Sam Darnold came back down to earth last season. You look at teams like Baltimore and the Eagles. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl, so this is going to be a hard season.
Absolutely.
And I think you have the coach and the quarterback that are understanding of that, and they're ready for that challenge. And I want to see Caleb protected properly so that we can see him and what he can be. Because I don't want to be playing this game of, oh, well, the offensive line got hurt and this guy got banged up and blah, blah, blah. And that's why, no, like, I'm tired of that merry-go-round of, well, it's not the quarterback, it's not the quarterback, it's not the quarterback until year 4. And then it's like, fuck, it is the quarterback.
Right.
Like.
So we finally have an alignment like we've never had before.
Right.
Ryan Poles completely believes in Ben Johnson, also completely believes in Caleb Williams. Like,
what team you think is the worst team in the division next year?
I have to say Green Bay. And that is only because I think JJ McCarthy is going to come out and do some good things for the Minnesota Vikings. As much as I hate to admit that, I think that's the reality of the situation. I think Jordan Love is not the answer long-term for Green Bay. That's something that, a lot of non-Bears fans are going to throw flack at, but I don't think he's the long-term answer. I think Jared Goff has maybe a year or two left in the tank with Detroit, and then they're going to start to taper as they go to a rebuild.
I think the Lions end up being the worst team in the division this year.
Really? Because of all the coaches that left?
Yeah, you have, your defensive coordinator left. They brought coaches with them. Ben Johnson left, brought coaches with him. Yeah. Right. I think it's going to be a transition year for this team. And unfortunately, I think last year was the year that they needed to make the jump to the Super Bowl. And I don't think they did it. And I think that's it. I think it's going to start going downhill.
So you think it's Bears at 1, Minnesota at 2, Green Bay at 3, Detroit at 4 is what you're saying?
I'd say Green Bay and Detroit probably tie in last place with 4 wins total for the whole season. So
that would surely be nice. But
by total, I mean Lions will have 4, and then they wouldn't be tied. The Packers would be bad. I think they'll be tied, 2 wins each.
2 wins each.
2 wins.
Calm down. I think that's absolutely crazy. But.
And you know what? I'll even let them beat the Bears for those 2 wins. The Bears, they'll have 15 wins, and We'll be on our way to the Super Bowl, and before you know it,
Hey, I
kidding,
love
of
the
course.
enthusiasm, my guy, but no. Ultimately, I think we have a lot to look forward to as Bears fans. And I think our fans of Aces Wild have a lot to look forward to in terms of content here being pumped out on the Undefeated Sports
Yeah, pump
Network.
it.
So we've
Pump it
got a
real good.
lot of good things in the works, guys, and we are working to fill our schedule up here very soon to keep you entertained. So please.
Packers suck.
Okay. The Packers do suck.
That's my drop. I drop it every show.
So if you guys are not following us on socials, please be sure to go follow the Undefeated Sports Network on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, all major platforms. We are going live every Friday on Aces Wild, and very soon we will have some announcements to make for our upcoming shows and the new and improved lineup that we're rolling out here at USN. So
yeah, we're back, and we're coming back fierce and ready to rock and roll.
We're back and better than ever, baby. So
Mike and Mike copy wrote that, so I hope we don't get sued.
what?
Isn't that Greeny? Doesn't Greeny say that all the time? I don't need him to back and better than ever.
Oh,
Sure.
he's not even gonna be doing his show anymore.
Good, then we can steal that. I like it. It. That's our thing now.
If we're big enough to get DCMA'd by Mike Greenberg,
hey man,
the
last draft show we did, we got flagged and shit.
That we did
because people are just haters.
People are haters. That is true. Yep. But anyways, guys, we appreciate each and every one of you for joining us here tonight on the Undefeated Sports Network. As always, be sure to go follow us on major platforms. Give us a like, ring that bell, help the algorithm, and be sure to keep an eye and ear out for the future content that's coming here on the Undefeated Sports Network. We appreciate each and every one of you for joining us tonight and hope you have a good night. We will see you next Friday right here on Aces Wild. Take care, guys.